Alright guys, welcome to the lesson. Please make sure to take out your warm-up sheet and complete this warm-up on the block day warm-up place in cycle 6. Alright, taking a look at number 1 and number 2, what we want you to do is to determine whether the relationships are exponential growth, exponential decay, or neither. So try number 1, number 2, hit pause right now, and then hit play again when you're ready to go over these. Welcome back. Alright, if we take a look at number 1, if you take a look at the relationship here, you're multiplying by 5 each time. That tells us that's an exponential relationship. Taking a look at number 2, if you take a look at what we're doing each time, you are multiplying by 11. So it's exponential growth. So both of these are growth. Keep in mind, if you took all these values and you graphed them, you would have a curve that was going up. So that's another way you can tell of whether it's exponential growth or decay. Alright, here are your goals and agenda for today, and keep in mind you're going to be doing all of this and keeping all the materials we work on in your notebook. You do not have to do number 2, so don't even worry about the number 2 right here. Just worry about numbers 1, 3, and 4. All right, this is your homework for tonight. Yes, this is actually homework even though we're not here today. Make sure to take out your agenda book right now and put this in your agenda book. Again, this is due when we see you tomorrow on Friday. Your blockbuster's due next block day. Keep in mind you also have a test next block day.
Those are both for you guys. Those will both be next day 6, which is Friday, October 31st. You can pause the video to write this down if you need to. These are homework answers from last night's homework. Take a minute to check. So you should have been able to identify exponential growth and exponential decay from each of these equations and tables and graphs. Again, if you need to hit pause, take a minute, hit pause, and then you can take a look at these again a little bit more closely. Okay, now we're going to start our lesson. So this is just a reminder from last class. In order to identify exponential functions from an equation, table, and graph, the equation should be in the form y is equal to a times b to the x. Keep in mind, the variable, the x, is your exponent. So for example, y is equal to 3 times 5 to the x would be exponential. On the other hand, y is equal to 2x squared would not be exponential because the exponent is a 2 and not your variable. From a table, keep in mind that the values, the y values, are always being multiplied or divided by the same number. In this case, we're always multiplying by 2. Also, your graphs, your exponential graphs, that looks like exponential growth. So it is curving up, it's increasing. And then exponential decay will look something like that. It should be curving down or decreasing.
Okay, just as a reminder, these are terms that we went over the other day, exponential growth and exponential decay. For exponential growth, keep in mind, it is exponential growth if the b value is greater than 1. So what I just wrote down, that's an example of exponential growth because the b value is greater than 1. It's 5. Taking a look at exponential decay, it's the same idea except your b value will be less than 1. As an example, y equals 2 times 1 over 4 raised to the x is an example of exponential decay. Again, because the b value is less than 1. One thing to keep in mind, don't just think because there's a fraction as your b value that it's going to be exponential decay. If you look on your screen, I'll give you an example of one that is exponential growth with a fraction. For example, y equals 3 times 10 over 3 raised to the x. That's exponential growth because 10 over 3 is greater than 1. It's an improper fraction and is greater than 1. Okay, if we take a look at the graphs, what I'm drawing right now is exponential growth. Okay, it's a curve and it's going up. And then for exponential decay, whoops, it's going down. Okay, look, keep in mind I messed up a little bit there. It should not go below the x-axis. So now I'm going to fix it, and that's a better example.
All right, guys, we're going to do a little bit of practice. So please ask the sub for the exponential functions practice worksheet. There's 11 problems on the front. It's just one-sided, okay? You're going to get this worksheet. You're going to work on this individually. Do us a favor and please change the directions. The direction should say, identify each function as linear, exponential growth, or exponential decay. So pause the video at this time and take a few minutes to work on these. When you're finished, you can check your answers. Okay, at this time, you're going to get the exponential functions note sheet from the sub. So pause the video, get that exponential note sheet. We're going to use this same note sheet for the remainder of the class. All right, so we're going to start by writing function rules from a table. So we're going to look at examples 1 and 2 together, and then you're going to try example A and B at the bottom of the page. So here's example 1 and 2. Again, we're going to use y is equal to a times b to the x to write the function rule for each table. Now before we start, I want to show you something. If x is 0, and I plug in 0 for x, b to the 0 is really 1. So this gives me a times 1. And you know that a times 1 is really a. So basically what this is telling you is that when x equals 0, y is always equal to your a value. So the a value should be the easy part to identify. If you look at the table in number 1, here's where x equals 0. When x equals 0, y is equal to 8. So that tells me that my a value is 8. So here my a value is 8. Now I have to identify my b value. My b value is what we multiply the y's by each time. So you can probably tell here, what am I multiplying each of these y values by? I'm always multiplying by 2. So my b value is 2. All right, if that is a little bit difficult for you to figure out that b is 2, another way of doing it is you can take a look at your y values and you can try and see, all right, let me take any y value, and if I divide it by the previous y value, so in other words 16 divided by 8, that's going to get me 2. I could also do it with 8 and 4. If I take 8 and divide by 4, that's going to get me 2. And you can see so on and so forth. Any of these times where I take the y value and divide by the previous y, it's always going to get me 2. That, again, is my b value. At this point, I take my a and my b and I plug in to y is equal to a times b to the x. So y is equal to 8 times 2 to the x. All right? Now be careful. Don't multiply this 8 and this 2. And the reason is this. If we follow order of operations, PEMDAS, we simplify the exponents before we multiply. So we would need, it's kind of like this 2 is in parentheses. We would need to raise the 2 to the exponent first and then multiply by 8. So here is your final answer. Let's take a look at number 2. So again, the a is going to be the easy part. You look to see where x equals 0. So that happens there. Our a is equal to 27. Then, to find b, you try and say, all right, what am I multiplying every time? What am I multiplying by? I'm always multiplying by 3, so my b is equal to 3. Again, if you have trouble identifying that b value, take any number, any of the y values, and divide by the previous y value, and you'll always get your b. All right? Now at this point, I plug in y is equal to a times b to the x. So y is equal to 27 times 3 to the x power. Again, you can put that 3 in parentheses if you want to. There is my exponential equation. All right, so take a look at the bottom of the page, the individual practice problems, A and B. Pause the video, take a minute, identify A, identify B, and write the equations. All right. When you're ready to check your answers, hit play again. All right, welcome back. So here's your answers. For A, my A value is 1, where x is equal to 0. And my B value is 3. Again, I'm multiplying by 3 each time to get the next y. So my equation, y is equal to 1 times 3 to the x power. Letter B, my A value is 5. My B value is also 5 because I'm multiplying by 5. So my final equation, 5 times 5 to the x power.
Okay guys, and we're still on the front side of the sheet, and now we're going to take those same tables that we were working with to develop the functions, and now we're going to graph those values. Okay? The graph in your paper looks a little different than the graph that's on here. Okay? So the first thing you need to do for all 4 graphs that are on the front side of your paper is divide it into 4 quadrants. Like this. If you look at the bottom of the page that I just drew on there, okay, when divided into 4 quadrants, it doesn't have to be perfectly even, but you do need 4 quadrants. Keep in mind, where I'm putting the red point, that's your origin. You always start at the origin when you graph points. Keeping that in mind, if we take a look at number 1, our first order pair is -2, 2. Okay, so I'm going to start at my origin. Again, I just put a point in there. I'm going to go over -2 and up 2 and put a point. And then going to go back and erase that point at the origin. My next point is -1, 4. Okay, so I'm going to start at the origin, go over to the left 1, and go up 4. My next point is 0, 8. Start at the origin. I'm not going over at all. I'm going to go up 8 and put a point. Okay, the rest of the points will go off the page. So I'm just going to keep it like it is there, and then I'm going to draw my line. Again, please keep in mind that you have to put arrows at the end of each side of the line. I draw my line. Again, it's a curve. Okay, when you graph an exponential function, it will always be a curve. In this one will be growth because you're going up as you go from left to right. Taking a look at number 2, my first point is -1, 5. So I start at the origin, I go over -1, up 5, and I put a point. My second point is 0, 1, put a point. My second point is 1, 1 over 5, so I'm going to go slightly up there. It's not perfect because I'm on a smart board. Then my next point is 2, so I'm going to start at the origin, go over 2, up a tiny, tiny bit. That might be a little harder to draw. And then I'm going to draw my curve. And again, when you do that, please keep in mind that you have to draw arrows at the end of each line. Okay, taking a look at the bottom of the page, the bottom of the worksheet that's in front of you, use those tables and graph all those points on each table. Okay? Right now you should hit pause. When you're ready to check your answers, hit play, and then the answers will be there for you. Okay, welcome back. The answers are on the board. I apologize that my artistic skills on a smartboard aren't that good. For the letter B, on the y-axis, I went by 5. That's why it might look slightly different than yours. Okay, for example, the first line on the y-axis is 5, then 10, then 15, then 20, just because the numbers were so large. All right, your line should look something like this. It may not be exact. They should look something like this. And these are both examples of exponential growth because the curves are going up. At this point, take that note sheet in front of you, turn it over. Okay, and what you need to do is copy these steps down, numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so hit pause right now make sure to copy down these steps. It does not need to be word for word, but it should be in a way that you'll understand. This will be the most writing you do today. So again, take a moment, hit pause, write these down. When you're ready to go, hit play again. All right, welcome back. Take a look at the two graphs underneath those 4 steps you just wrote. Okay, so this is a little bit different, but it's actually a lot of the same. Okay, if you take a look at these two graphs, they're giving you the coordinates of the points. So here's all you have to do. You have to draw a T-chart, which is what I just drew. The left side is X, the right side is Y. Okay, and all you're doing is writing down the values. Let's take a look at -2, 4. My X value is -2. My Y value is 4. The next one is -1, 2, 0, 1, 1, and then a half, and then 2 and 1/4. At this point, you're doing the same thing you did before. You have to identify your A and B. Because you're new to this, please make sure that you write A equals and B equals. So let's take a look at what A equals. We know that the A value is Y when X equals 0. So let's take a look at that. So if you look at the point that I just circled, Y is 1 when X is 0. So my A value is 1. Now, I have to look at my Y values, and I have to figure out, what am I doing each time? How am I going from 4 to 2? How am I going from 2 to 1? How am I going from 1 to half, and so forth? Okay? I'm dividing by 2, but I'm not going to write that B equals -2. I'm going to write that B equals 1/2. Okay? Because technically, when you divide by 2, you're multiplying by 1/2. It's the same thing. Now that I have my A and my B values, I'm ready to write my function. So in this case, it would be that Y equals 1 times 1/2 to the X power. Okay, now let's take a look at the graph to the right of it. Again, first step, I'm going to draw a T-chart, put X, put Y. Okay, I'm going to start putting the coordinates of my points. The first one was -2 for X, and then 1/4 for Y, -1, and half, 0, 1, 1, 2, and then 2, 4. Okay? So, I'm going to find out where X is 0. And I know that my Y value when X is 0 is going to be A. So in this case, A is going to be equal to 1. The way I find B is I have to look at the relationship for the Y's. What am I doing each time? If I look at that graph, I see that the curve is going up. I know my number has to be greater than 1 because this is exponential growth. So I need to figure out, how do I go from 1 to 2? How do I go from 2 to 4? Okay? And I'm multiplying by 2. So my B value is 2. All right, so because A is 1 and B is 2, my function is Y equals 1 times 2 raised to the X. Okay, if you don't understand that, please go back and rewatch what I just did. Again, it's very similar to the tables that Ms. Chang went over before. All right, now please take a look at the two graphs underneath. You're going to try these by yourself in a second. These are a little different than the ones that we just did above because the coordinates are not given to you. So you need to identify the coordinates of at least 2 points. When you're doing that, you want to find 2 points that are right on the grid. So if you take a look at your screen, you're going to see a big red point that just appeared. I'm going to choose that point because it's right on the grid. Okay? And then I'm going to go down and find another one. Oh, here's another one. So I'm going to put a point there. So now I have 2 points. Okay? And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to draw my T-chart. Okay? I'm going to put down the coordinates of each point. That first point, the X value is 0, and the Y value is 5. That's a bad 5, but that does say 5. And the next one, the X value is 1, and the Y value is 2. And now I'm in good shape. Even though I only have 2 points, I'm in good shape. So what you need to do right now is find the A value and the B value, and then you're set. And again, make sure you're writing A equals and B equals, because it really will help you out. Okay, hit pause on the video right now. Try this problem. When you're set to go and you want to check your answer, hit play again. All right, welcome back. Okay, our A value is 5 because where X is 0, Y is 5. okay? And our b value is 2 over 5. And here's why, okay? I know that this is exponential decay, so I know that the number has to be less than 1. I need to figure out, how am I going from 5 to 2? Well, I'm multiplying by 2 over 5. Another way of looking at it, Ms. Chang went over this before, is I can start at 2 and divide by the previous number. The previous number in this case is 5, so it's just going to be 2 over 5. We do not want a decimal. Please make sure to leave it as a fraction. Okay? I have my b value, I have my a value, and I'm ready to write my function. So my function here would be y equals 5 times 2 over 5 raised to the x. Okay? Now, go on to the next problem, problem D. Okay? Hit pause, try the problem, and when you're ready to check your answer, please hit play again, and we'll go over it. Okay, welcome back. So, the work is on the board for you. I chose 2 points that are right on the grid. And again, I put them in red so you can easily see them. My first point was 0, 1, so my x value is 0, my y value is 1. My second point was 2, 5, so my x value is 2, and my y value is 5. So now, first step, I need to identify what is a going to be. And again, a is the value of y when x is equal to 0. So, if you take a look on your screen, where x is 0, y is 1, which means a is equal to 1. The next thing I need to figure out is, what am I doing, what am I multiplying or dividing by to go from 1 to 5? Okay? This is an example of exponential growth, and the way we can tell is by looking at the graph. It curves up, so I know my number has to be greater than 1. Okay? How do I go from 1 to 5? Well, I'm multiplying by 5. So b is going to be equal to 5. And now I'm set, I'm ready to write my exponential function. All right? In this case, it would be y equals 1 times 5 raised to the x. And that should be your final answer.
All right, guys, take a minute and try and answer this closure question. How do you identify what a and b are in an exponential function from a table and from a graph? So take a minute, pause the video, think about the question, and then you can unpause it when you're done. Welcome back. So in an exponential function from a table, you have x values and you have y values. A should be where your x value is 0. Whatever that y value is, that's your a value. And your b is whatever you're multiplying by to get the next term. From a graph, your a value is going to be wherever the graph crosses the y-axis. In other words, wherever x equals 0. In order to identify b, you need to identify more than one point. Again, make an x and y table, and then you're going to have to divide the y value by the previous y value to get the b value. All right. If you have any questions still, if you are unclear on anything that you've seen so far in this video, please go back, rewatch the whole video if you want, or that section of the video, whatever you need to watch. You can always try and ask the sub as well, or you can ask other people in your table. So at this point, you should have completed your warm-up. You should have completed your exponential functions practice worksheet, and you should now have exponential functions notes that are completed as well. Once you have finished all of those things and you don't have any other questions, you can go on to these. Again, you can ask the sub for these things. So the first thing you could do is to complete the operation with exponents review worksheet. The answers, this is a one-sided worksheet with 12 questions, and the answers are on the back. You can always check. Once you have finished that, you can go back to your quiz that was simplifying exponents, so exponents quiz number 2, and you can make corrections on that quiz on separate paper. So these corrections need to be on separate paper, you need to make corrections on any problem that you did not get completely correct. So even if you lost a half of a point on a problem, you need to start at the beginning and show all of your work, all right? If you finish that, which I don't think most of you will, but if you do finish, you can always work on the Cycle 7 blockbuster that the sub just gave you earlier in the period, all right? Guys, all of this is posted on the whiteboard as well. I'm just going to go back and remind you of homework. This homework is due tomorrow. Also, for our orange class, we're going to check the homework that was due today, tomorrow as well. So you should have both assignments completed. For the blue class, Ms. Castiello stamped your homework when you got here in the beginning of the period. All right, guys, again, here is the homework that's due tomorrow, all right? If you didn't already write this down in your agenda book, write it down. In addition, it's written on the whiteboard as well. Don't forget your blockbuster's due on Friday, October 31st, along with your unit test on exponents, simplifying exponents, graphing exponents, writing the equation of exponential functions. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Behave.